This video is on biogeochemical cycles. We're going to learn how matter flows between trophic levels and among ecosystems. Remember, energy flows through, but matter gets recycled. We're going to talk about the water cycle, the main nutrient cycles, and limiting nutrients. So you can see in the graphic here, energy flows through and matter cycles. Matter flows from one trophic level to another, and elements are recycled within and among ecosystems. Cycles are called biogeochemical cycles and are powered by the flow of energy. So there are several processes involved in biogeochemical cycles that are biological processes, any activity performed by living things. Photosynthesis, eating food, eliminating waste would be examples. They occur mainly in the biosphere. Geological processes, things that deal with the earth. Volcanic eruptions, formation and breakdown of rock, major movements of matter within and below the Earth's surface. These occur mainly in the geosphere. Physical and chemical processes, including cloud formation, precipitation, flow of running water, action of lightning would be examples of physical and chemical processes. They occur in the hydrosphere, the atmosphere, and the geosphere. And human activities play a role in this as well. Mining, burning fossil fuels, clearing land for building or farming, cutting or burning, replanting of forest, manufacturing use of fertilizers would all be examples of human activities. And they represent the outermost ring in the global change diagram that we've looked at several times that can drive changes in all four areas. So here, again, here's just to remind you guys, here's what that diagram looks like. So let's first look at the water cycle. So water in the atmosphere is in the form of water gas, and it forms clouds. Precipitation is water falling from the atmosphere to the surface in typically a liquid form or in the form of rain or snow or sleet or something like that. And it collects into rivers and lakes and streams in the ocean and seeps into the groundwater. Evaporation is water going from the surface back into the atmosphere and condensing into clouds. Transpiration is groundwater taken up by the roots of plants and then released from the pores in the leaves of the plant, called stomata, as water vapor, and it goes back into the atmosphere. Nutrients are elements that are essential for organisms to sustain life, things that they have to get from their environment. One of the cycles is the carbon cycle. You can see we've got several things going on here in the carbon cycle. Plants and algae remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere through photosynthesis. Primary producers use carbon dioxide to build carbohydrates. Carbohydrates pass through the food chain as things are being eaten. Decomposers recycle carbon back into the environment when they break down dead and decaying matter. And fossil fuels are the remains of primary producers that were buried before they could decompose. And then, carbon gets released back in the atmosphere when we burn those fossil fuels. You can see the different reservoirs, the carbonate rock, the dissolved carbon dioxide, the forest, the fossil fuels, and the atmospheric carbon. Yes, the biological processes we talked about. You've got some geological processes, physical chemical changes, and human-caused changes. The nitrogen cycle. Most of the oxygen, or most of the air is nitrogen. About 70% of the air is nitrogen gas. But most living things can't use nitrogen gas as a source of nitrogen to build proteins. So instead they rely on bacteria primarily to convert that into a usable form of nitrogen, in the form of nitrates and nitrites and things like that. There's also dissolved nitrogen in the water on the surface. So nitrogen fixation happens in two ways. Bacteria convert nitrogen gas into ammonia and other usable nitrogen compounds, or through lightning can convert nitrogen into usable forms as well. Denitrification returns some of the nitrates and other forms back into nitrogen gas, back into the atmosphere. And again, that's done by other bacteria. The phosphorus cycle, phosphorus is something we need for some proteins. You need it for nucleic acids. Phosphates are found in rocks and in soil. Dissolved phosphates and phosphate sediments are also found in the water in the hydrosphere. Plants take in phosphorus from the soil and then passes through the food chain as living things eat other living things. And finally, that takes us to limiting nutrients. In most ecosystems, there are some nutrients that there's not enough to go around. So that limits the productivity of the ecosystem. What that is going to vary from ecosystem to ecosystem.